Welcome back to another disturbing and creepy videos that will leave you shocked. I'm Jet Ski Chuck. On these creepy and scary videos, you want to keep your head on a straight swivel. They also will have you questioning your entire reality. Before we do anything, hit that like and subscribe button and turn notifications to all so you don't miss a video. So let's get into it.
It opened up in the 1800s as a segregated mental asylum. I wonder what this room was used for. Many reports of abuse were made here over the years. It shut down in the 1990s after 6 patients were found dead.
The smile room? I got a feeling there wasn't too much smiling going on in there.
Have you ever taken a glimpse back into the 1900s and explored the sprawling mental asylums of the time? It's remarkable how vast these buildings were, with thousands of rooms. One can't help but question why such massive structures were constructed. Consider the resources required for their construction, especially when contrasted with the simple wooden shacks that were prevalent during the same era. These small, humble dwellings dotted the landscape, yet towering mental asylums dominated the skyline, serving as repositories for those who deviated from societal norms. These institutions weren't just for the clinically ill, they became tools of societal control. Individuals who spoke out against prevailing ideologies, whether it be the proliferation of radio or resistance to mandatory vaccinations or taxation, found themselves confined within these imposing walls. It's unsettling to realize that dissenters were silenced through institutionalization, effectively reducing the population of those who challenged the status quo. The history of these asylums and their role in societal conformity is a topic that merits deeper exploration. Yet, despite their significance, these structures have largely been erased from our physical landscape. The demolition of these institutions raises questions about the erasure of uncomfortable truths from our collective memory. Why do we feel the need to purge such history? It's a question worth pondering. Have you ever taken...
For those who deviated from societal norms. They would have strapped my ankles and both hands together and threw me in there and threw away the key. Straight jacket on me, everything. They would have not let me talk. Shout out to my lunch break for this next one. We dove off into it a little bit on my last live if you were here yesterday with me, but we're going to finish it up today. Check this out.
Oh, wait, we don't? Now in Columbus, Ohio, we are given one of the most important narratives to this point, to our research, in my opinion. We have the Pontifical College, Josephinum, where Joseph comes over to the USA from Germany in 1867. 3 years later, he becomes a priest and has his own church within a few months. And he gets to buy the house next door, of course, to support 12 orphans. And do we all know about the orphans at this point? Possibly a repopulation tactic that was going on in the 1800s. It's very interesting. Was it only 12 orphans? Or was this one of the places that they would send the orphans through to get them into society? Because who would ever question Joseph the priest from the 1800s? You know, the guy that just randomly shows up from Germany, has all the money ready to buy houses somehow, to support orphans. It all checks out, of course. Simple stuff for Joseph. This was known as the St. Joseph Orphan Asylum. It grew so rapidly, for some weird and of course, very random reason, that 5 years after it began, Joseph moved the operation closer to the railroad, which is how these individuals would be dispersed throughout the country. So this is a paragraph of admission. We are being told, down to the smallest detail, how this operation worked. It would go through churches. They would bring a manager type over from Europe, call them a priest, give them a house, give them the resources to run these operations, purchasing new buildings with ease to run the program. So not only do you have the World's Fairs that were a repopulation tactic, you had these orphan trains and orphan hubs where they would be dropped off and planted into society. The new facility that Joseph was just finding and saying was his. I want to make that clear, he wasn't building anything. He was given these buildings that were already there from the previous civilization. So the new building gave the orphans a training in the trades. So this Joseph guy was obviously sent with a purpose, to repopulate and teach to a brand new society, one that didn't have any skills. This right here is how you reset a society's technology level. The teacher is never in charge of what the students learn. This Joseph character is a teacher of a class. He is not the principal of the school. There are many schools. He is clearly taking direction as to what the students of the new society will learn. There were many classes like this one all over the country, happening simultaneously. This was an operation. This went on for 12 years with zero backstory. Finds the Collegium, Josephinum, this massive college, is just found and ready to roll. No clue where the money came from. No mention of how many men were needed to
Real quick, I just want to say this is in connection to the Shalaga with German ties.
build this place. Just found it. And its first class of 23 men began. It's unbelievable. This is one of the most important stories to our research, in my opinion, because it shows exactly how the operation took place. It's actually laying it all out there and shows us exactly how they repopulated these regions in the USA. It shows us the operation with the orphans, the teaching programs. And this was our base for our technological knowledge. Whoever controlled this operation from the top has all of the technology from the previous civilization and is controlling what technology we get to have. And they've clearly been doing this for a very long time. And for anyone that's on the fence, we have the St. Vincent's Infant Asylum, located in Baltimore, where we have tunnels under the ground. This infant asylum was in use in the mid-1800s, during the same time period as German transfer Joseph. And what do you know? In the early 1900s, the operation was done, and they declined new orphans. 1941, they changed this to apartments. And in 2015, they light it up and try to destroy it with a fire, but they fail. So 3 years later, what do you think happens? 2018, the building was illegally demolished without a permit. You literally can't make this stuff up. It gets more and more obvious if you're still on the fence. Let's go even deeper. We have the St. Mary's Orphan Asylum, located in Galveston, Texas, where they tell us that this one is haunted. Now, I've talked about hauntings before briefly. I'm not going to say that there aren't any hauntings, but when it comes to these old world buildings, I think it was a tactic to keep people away from them. Just say that they're haunted, and it scares everyone away from investigating. So we have yet again another orphan operation going on in the mid-1800s. And I'm just gonna let you know that this is going on and on and on. There were so many orphan operations going on in the mid-1800s because this was how they were repopulating these cities. So where were all these kids' parents? Is this where a lot of our families originated from? Is this why the family trees in the USA almost all end around the same time period? We are told hundreds of fire stories through the first 52 episodes. We know that that is the key, and the nod, that it's a building that was constructed by the previous civilization. The St. Mary's Orphan Asylum. For anyone wondering where the parents of these orphans were, you might want to check the other asylum, the insane asylum, because they were not going along with the reset. Here's a graph showing that the insane asylums are disappearing over time. And I wonder why. Good thing they cared so much about us in 1955 and 1965. Because surely that was the fix. Oh, it wasn't? And then a fire had devastated the St. Mary's Orphan Asylum in 1875. If anyone is still on the fence, there is room over here to get off the fence. And honestly, who would want to sit on top of a fence anyway? So we have Ohio, Baltimore, Texas. We have all these towns and cities being repopulated. Brand new people, brand new social structures, brand new mindsets, and resetting what people are taught. This all happened around 150 years ago. So this is all very new. This isn't thousands of years ago. Then we have another very interesting aspect of this in Germany during this same exact time period. And remember, we also have good old Joseph from earlier, also from Germany. So here we are given the Kinderbewahrenstalt. And if I pronounce that wrong, I hope you all understand. This is where we are given kindergarten, another tactic to teach children the brand new social structures. What better way to trick people? Take them out of their family's home and tell them what to think, and then test them on it. Failing the test will then lower your self-esteem, putting a social pressure on children to agree with this new way of taught, or they will be called dumb and get an F.
I thought it was called kindergarten. This is called kindergarten. Oh my goodness. If that's what it's called, we have been lied to. I gotta type this in. Kindergarten. Are you kidding me? I thought it was kindergarten. Am I the only one, or do we get Mandela'd up? You guys got to let me know right now. Is it called kindergarten or was it called kindergarten? My entire life, I thought it was kindergarten. You know, like you're gardening your flowers and, you know, it's kindergarten. T-E-N. Oh my God. Look, I typed in kindergarten and they're trying to change it to kindergarten. That sounds German, y'all. You got to be kidding me, man. Everything's been a lie.
This is an operation. It's all connected. And it's designed to enslave the world's population. Year after year, we are all taught a false narrative. We've all been brainwashed into thinking that you are either smart or dumb based on a curriculum that holds zero value in the real world. Now, who knows if this Frederick Froebel was even a real character, but they do admit that kindergarten starts in Germany around the exact same time period that we're talking about, the mid-1800s. So I wanted to tie it all in with the rest of the world. This is a worldwide operation. This is not just the USA. We have a lot of things in the USA being controlled through Germany during this time period, especially the education aspect of it. And I want to point out that yes, we have borders and division now. We have so many countries in the world. and everyone is separated. And you're unable to travel to other lands unless you have a piece of paper that is registered and checked at the checkpoints. But who's to say that there even was a border in the previous civilization? Were there so-called elected leaders controlling everyone, deciding what we can and cannot do? Could they have had a truly free life where they were able to travel wherever they want freely and not feel like they're invading someone else's territory? I would say, in my opinion, this was the world that was here before the reset. And something happened where this past civilization was wiped out and their technology was stolen by a group. And some of it is now being sold back to us. Strategically, the good stuff is kept to control the masses and used for their benefit. Before we get into the final part that's going to expose a lot, I want to thank all the badge members and the Patreons and subscribers. Moralize, control, and don't come out of nowhere. I know where they orphanage located. We're all helping this channel out a lot and keeping it going. We have a lot more to share. I look forward to every Saturday hearing all of your thoughts in the comments below. Here we have the St. Joseph's Orphanage, located in Vermont. And if you want to know where they get these horror movies, where they show a nun doing crazy things, there's a dark truth to it. These movies don't come out of nowhere. They come from the last 150 years. Here in Vermont, in the mid-1800s again, thousands of children came through its doors. If you want to demoralize, control, and manipulate a new population, make them completely forget their past and never question what they're told, you would make them suffer. You would take them from their families, and you would ruin their mind at a young age. This is exactly what happened in the wars, where all men between ages 21 to 45 were required to fight in World War I, which was in 1914 to 1919. 2.8 million men drafted, 2 million volunteered, where you get the term shell-shocked or mentally confused. You can look at the shell-shock videos on X. I'm not going to show that here. But talk about destroying minds and making sure that the population is unable to focus on finding the truth. So we have millions of people in wars. We have more than 5 million American children passing through the orphanage system in the 1900s alone, hitting its peak in the early 1900s. So it began in the mid-1800s and really ramped up to populate these cities. The American orphanage system included more than 1,600 institutions, partly supported by public funding, but usually run by religious orders, exactly like we talked about in the beginning of this episode. So I think we have now a very solid understanding how the USA was repopulated, how this operation took place, and exactly when it took place. I think that we now have factual evidence as to when this reset really happened. And I think that every episode that is released makes episode 10 and 38 stronger and stronger, giving us more and more proof to our true history.
Man, huge shout out to My Lunch Break. If you haven't checked them out already, be sure to do so, man, so we can put these pieces together and wake everybody up, man.
The Miller family's origins, a notoriously difficult task for African Americans because records are hard to come by, especially before 1865.
It really was a hobby.
Not in just my case, my family, I know because I've spoken with my parents who spoke with their great-grandparents, and their great-grandparents were born in the 1860s, 1870s. They said they don't know anything about their parents, have no clue where they come from, and they don't remember anything before the age of 14. So that tells you everything. And I've spoken, some people told me via private messages that they also spoke with their parents and grandparents who told them that when their grandparents or parents were kids, they met their great-grandparents who were born in the 19th century, and also they told them that they don't know who their parents are, and they don't have any memories of when they were children, like between the ages of 4, 5 to all the way to 12, 14, that's pretty much the same thing everywhere in the world, every continent. So yeah, that proves that.
Nobody styles this. It's weird. It's strange. It's like they got a kid. It's like when they got here, they were just giving a kid a clothes. They didn't always fit, and it didn't always make sense. And this year, I don't know. Not sure. Maybe a World's Fair. Maybe something else. Not sure. It's not a picture. It's a drawing. These guys, captains of industry. I don't know. Pretty suspicious looking to me, especially the guy there on the staircase. What's his deal? Yeah. Like I said, if anybody knows more than me, feel free to leave it in the comments. Yeah, those are telegraph wires, but still, it's a lot of them. There's some inconsistencies with the technology and infrastructure. We had telegraph wires, but we had mud roads. There's some inconsistencies with the technology and infrastructure. We had telegraph wires, but we had mud roads. We had telegraph wires, but we had horse poop. Yeah. Dung. We had dung. We had dung in the streets. Yeah. It just doesn't add up. We could build marvelous buildings, but we had horse dung in the street. We're led to believe that these inconsistencies are normal. They're not normal. They're glaring, stark inconsistencies. Yeah, some people were poor and they had to live in houses like in the previous picture, and they had to have jobs like these kids. But that's another inconsistency. If anybody wants to debate this, I'm open for discussion about anything I said. I'm trying to figure it out too. I don't have all the answers. And it looks like they're building the subway, or are they digging out the old buildings? That's the question. I've got all these people. They'll tell you that they came from Europe. They'll tell you that they came from Eastern Europe. They'll tell you that they came from Russia. I don't know. Maybe. But why? Why did when they get here, there was already a place where there was already skyscrapers? Did they help dig out what was still left under mud? I mean, no one can argue that the period between 1812 and 1920 was a very interesting period in America. Now, other people, they focus on Europe, they focus on Asia. I'm primarily concerned with what's happening here in the United States between, I'd say 1812 and 1920. There's an incubator baby. A lot of talk about the incubator babies, the World's Fair, and the true meaning. I don't know, but it seems sinister. There's a panorama of San Francisco World's Fair. There's a lot of people there. A lot of people came to San Francisco shortly after the earthquake. They thought it was a good idea to rebuild in an earthquake-prone part of the world. Look how fancy the trains were. Look how nice the rugs were. Look how nice the ceiling of the train car is. Why can't we do that? Is it because it's not necessary? Here, look, see Chinatown, San Francisco. Same phenomenon. Everybody dressed the same. Everybody primarily has the same type of hat. There's another picture of a beach scene. Everybody looks like they're not dressed for the beach. Like I said, they'll talk about modesty, but it doesn't add up. People were allowed to dress appropriate for the beach. Here's some more immigrant children and their mother. I know that history was spotty then, but look at this here. The White House. And there's trash everywhere. These people look indigent and dirty. They don't belong. I know things were different back.
Now you want to see some crazy shit? Shit decent.
Other second.
Did y'all see the White House? They found the White House by the looks of it. For entertainment purposes only, we're going that route today. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's go. What is acute mania? What is acute mania?
Morbid Facts, Part 221. New York man Simon Metz, aka Schlitzie, was born in 1901 with microcephaly, a condition characterized by a small head and intellectual disability. His parents eventually sold him to a circus and he became a performer in the 1920s, a time when people with disabilities were often exploited for entertainment. It was said Schlitzie had the mental capacity of a 3-year-old. He was unable to care for himself and could only form small words and phrases. Despite these challenges, Schlitzie became a beloved figure among audiences thanks to his innocence and gentle nature. But behind the scenes, Schlitzie was often underpaid, provided with poor living conditions, and seldom fed. Although Schlitzie was born male, the circus often put him in dresses and treated him as a female, promoting him with the names Pinhead and Monkey Girl. In 1936, a chimpanzee trainer adopted Schlitzie as his son and apparently treated him well. But sadly, his adopted father passed away in 1965 and Schlitzie was sent to a mental asylum. Schlitzie died 6 years later at the age of 70 and has since inspired numerous fictional characters including Zippy the Pinhead and Pepper from American Horror Story.
We gotta do better, y'all. Come on, let's regroup. Damn.
Let's go explore the abandoned Norwich State Hospital in Connecticut. This historic insane asylum can be found in the towns of Norwich and Preston, right across the river from the Mohegan Sun Casino. The hospital first opened its doors in October 1904 as Norwich State Hospital for the Insane. Like other state hospitals, it was started with the best intentions, but lack of funding, willing workers, and soaring demand eventually led to some chaos. In 1904, the hospital only had one single building and 95 patients. The patient number doubled the next year and 2 more buildings were added. The patient population continued to grow and so did the campus. There were soon many dormitories, a laboratory, employees club, and worker housing. The campus was even self-sufficient thanks to its own farm. By the end of the 1930s, over 20 buildings were standing and the campus grew to nearly 1,000 acres. New buildings continued to be added and older ones were abandoned. Throughout its years of operation, the hospital housed geriatric patients, chemically dependent patients, and from 1931 to 1939, tuberculosis patients. Patient population peaked in 1955 with just over 3,100. Starting in the 1970s, patients began to slowly leave Norwich State Hospital due to deinstitutionalization and new medications. It permanently closed its doors in 1996. Over the years, some horrible events took place here. Patients hung themselves, a hot water heater exploded and killed 2, several patients died during treatments, and a nurse was killed. Once abandoned, it became a popular spot among urban explorers and ghost hunters. Nowadays, the campus is being redeveloped and no trespassing is allowed. Let's go explore the...
In 1967, 17-year-old Lucy Weiner was committed to the violent female ward in Building 21 for a series of failed suicide attempts. In 2011, Lucy was granted permission to the abandoned asylum to film a documentary about her experience. In 1967,
The dark history behind Rochester's abandoned Terrence Tower Asylum. The doors first opened in 1959. Until the 1980s, former nurses and floor staff recall multiple instances of patient abuse. People with anything from mild to extreme issues were locked away somewhere within the asylum. Patients would undergo inhumane treatments like electroshock therapy, the dark history behind Rochester.
This mental asylum has a dark past. It's almost 250 years old. They used to do inhumane tests on patients and even tortured them. This mental asylum.
If you haven't already, smash that like and subscribe button. I try to bring these boys out to you daily. I try to go live a lot more often so we can figure this out together and jump on these waters, man. But this was a crazy one. Kindergarten, though? I've been saying kindergarten my whole life. That is wild. It's not called kindergarten. It is some German name. It all makes sense. They've been lying to us and trying to form us up from the beginning, y'all. Time to wake up, man. I'll see y'all on the next one.